Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Yakuza Fiancé Season 1, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we pick up with the Now situation, and she just happens to run into Kirishima and Yoshino, because Yoshino's checking out a specific university here in Osaka, because she always plans on coming back to Osaka, because she's also like, right, and he's like, I guess this is your way of rejecting me, but she's like, I literally rejected you every step of us being together, but you just, apparently it just never sinks in. But yeah, she's checking out this university and now uses this as an opportunity to get close to to Yoshino, because it's like, all right, because she's like, right, that guy's terrible, like, he's not worth it, like, I would never, like, want to, like, be with him or whatever. But then, like, she's invested into finding out, like, well, who is this girl? Like, this is a girl that, like, I don't know anything about her. Why is she so important to the point that you have her as, like, the background to your phone? Like, what's going on there? So she kind of looks at her as, like, something plain, because she talks about how everyone she runs into always stares at her, but for her, it's almost like oh, you don't look at me, like, she almost treats Yoshino like she's so, like, stuck up or whatever, which is very narcissistic. But I guess it's like when you've kind of had so many people constantly always looking at you, and the person who doesn't, it's kind of like either she's ignorant or she's so, like, because she even at one point calls her like she's so empty on the inside or something like that. So she has her own preconceived notions about Yoshino, but Yoshino also uses this opportunity to learn more about Kirishima, because now claims, like, right, I'm not really that close to him, but it's like, I guess, because the last time they, like, hooked up was, like, 3 years ago, so I guess it's been maybe a consistently on and off thing all throughout, because she's like, right, we went to the same elementary school and everything, she knows about the incident, she says she doesn't know any of the details, and I wonder how true that is, but, like, obviously Yoshino found out about the whole school incident, because we don't know what incited the incident. I think we're going to find out that Kirishima, like, had justifiable reasons to do what he did. Like, maybe those guys weren't good people, or maybe there was one specific person he was targeting, but other people got in the way. I don't know. Kirishima does seem to be that type of guy that's like, I can be, like, an asshole and do some shady stuff, but it also seems like there just seems to be, like, there is good reason sometimes for what he does, that it's not just out of nowhere, that there is method to his madness, so that sometimes he might have, like, good or, like, the best intentions with something, even if it's, like, for the greater machinations he's got planned. I don't know. But yeah, like, because obviously she didn't know that, Yoshino knows about him being a Yakuza, or, I mean, he claims not to be a Yakuza, but he is from a Yakuza family. And she also brought up his parents, and just like, whoa, his parents. And Yoshino was like, right, I mean, it makes sense. He would have parents, because all she really knows about is his grandfather. Well, she now knows, well, not now, but obviously eventually found out that his grandfather isn't his actual biological grandfather, it's his great uncle. But yeah, like, this is the first time, like, his parents have come up in conversation, but even now doesn't know a lot. Well, she says, like, right, they've got to be ordinary in some shape or form. I don't remember how she really came to that conclusion that they'd have to be. I guess because she's like, right, I remember now. Her justification was, considering his family circumstances, like with his quote-unquote grandfather, but it's still his grandfather, his parents would have to be normal, because if they weren't, something like that would have spread at the school he went to, because it was a private school. So they would have to be someone of just normalcy, maybe. Once again, I'm assuming Yoshino, we kind of, know that Yoshino was in a similar boat, because her dad wanted nothing to do with the family biz or whatever. So, but we still don't know a lot on that front, but we know even less about Kirishima's family, because he's a walking enigma. That's the thing of, like, Yoshino's using every opportunity she can to try and crack the egg of, like, who are you and what's your deal. So she gets Nao's contact info, and now it's looking into the school. I thought that's where she was going with Shoma, because we never actually saw where they went. Then they go, like, to Kobe, I believe, but I'm like, I don't remember if, like, that was her investigating the school or whatever. She's like, she went somewhere with Shoma, but we never actually got to see, like, where they actually went. But now also has to deal with Ozu, who represents himself to be a major creep. He's going to be blackmailing her because apparently he has photos and videos of her sleeping with Kirishima, which there are layers to that, because it also throws out the whole fact is he knows about her being in America smoking weed. So I don't know what Japan, I can only assume a lot of Asia is pretty heavy on the whole, like, especially, I think in general, a lot of Asia is pretty heavy on drugs in general, even something like weed. But I think it's also like, because she's a celebrity, she's an actress, like that can torpedo your career. Like people like in Asia will be severely disappointed with you and like call for you to be the version of canceled, like, oh, you should lose out on all your opportunities. Like I do believe it. I mean, you hear about that on like the K-pop side of things, but I think the same thing is applicable definitely on the actor front too, because you kind of hear about stuff like that. It's kind of scandalous, right? So it could destroy her reputation and everything she's built. It's so interesting too, considering like the way she presents herself to the world versus like her inner monologues that we are privy to. But yeah, Ozu's such a scumbag because he wants Kirishima and Yoshino in a certain place because he knows about who, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, who the hell are you to know about Yoshino's circumstances? Like knowing like what family she's from, and that's when now finds like, oh, she's from a Yakuza family herself. But it's like, yeah, you're going to lead them to a specific location, and that way I won't disseminate anything about you and Kirishima. But even later on, Kirishima brings up the whole fact is like, yeah, that's you'll be able to deal with all that, but there's still the weed thing that Ozu will be able to hold over your head, because he never promised to get rid of that. He promised to the whole situation with like Kirishima and her. It's interesting because he also says like Kirishima's the one that spread that information. He's like, because he's like, right, you're betraying a scumbag who betrayed you in the first place, so you shouldn't have to feel so guilty about it. But then we have Kirishima and Yoshino kind of going on a pseudo date to the aquarium, and she's asking him all this stuff about like, right. And as she says later on, it's kind of like we skipped a lot of the first date stuff, but it's like, right, when's your birthday? This and that. And it's like, I love the whole conversation of like, what is he? And he's just like, what did he say he was? He told like what his sign was, and she says like, I think he's a Scorpio, and she's like a Pisces or something like that, I believe, not unless I'm flipping that. And she was like, oh yeah, those typically don't get along well. He's like, well, which ones do? And she's like, I think Gemini. He's like, okay, so I was born in June then. And she's like, what? How do I know anything you're saying is a lie? He's like, I'm joking, but really no, my birthday's in November. So yeah, I thought that was just kind of interesting. Like, once again, he's kind of hard to read. But she just wants to know, because she brings up stuff of like, right, these are my, this, and this. She's like, I can drive. He's like, whoa, you have your license? She's like, oh, you didn't know that? He's like, well, I knew you passed like the, I think that kind of, maybe the equivalency of like the permit test. And she's like, well, how do you even know that? He's like, because he knows her birthday's April 2nd. I think it's interesting too. He said what month his birthday was in. He never actually gave a date. So I thought that was interesting. But once again, it's just the thing of how do you read someone who plays things so close to the vest, and it's so hard to really know. And when he's never really honest. And there was this moment, I forgot what it was she exactly said. She said something that made Kirishima like do a face he rarely does. And I think it caught her off guard because he got close to her and he had this serious look on his face. It felt like for the first time, well, not the first time, it happens every once in a blue moon, but it feels like he dropped the mask in that moment. I think even those moments where he kind of has that scary look on his face, I still feel like even that's a mask. I mean, there's so many masks that people in general wear depending on who they're around, but Kirishima's just kind of made it an art of never really letting those masks slip. They've slipped time to time. Like, once again, I don't know if even, like I said, those scary looks he makes, like, is that the mask slipping, or is that one mask slipping and revealing another mask? And it's just maybe this is one of the moments where there's no mask. It's just him. I don't know. But he was going to say something. I wish I could remember what Yoshino said. She said something to trigger that response, where it's just, I can't remember what it was. Oh, like, I think maybe it had something to do with, like, right, like, you're never going to really open up to me or tell me anything about yourself. So she's like, basically, let's keep this up for like the next 8 months. And then it was just kind of like that. But they got the phone call and or message or whatever. And I think it was from Now. I thought that was going to be a situation of that was going to be the lead up to like them going to where she was supposed to lead them to, which Kirishima and her do their thing, but then he reveals, like, yeah, you've been playing right into my hands. Like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, I knew you'd meet up with Yoshino. And he's just like, what? Like, did you set that up? And he's like, no, because, like, them meeting was genuine. Like, Yoshino, like, walked up to her not knowing anything about her, like, had no idea, like, the Kirishima connection until, you know, it came up. So he revealed that, like, yeah, like, I just knew it was a possibility. That's why I went out of my way to present myself with Yoshino. Like, if I was around my girlfriend, I figured that trigger something in you. And even revealing, like, oh, yeah, I specifically left my phone there. In fact, I'm the one that, while I was in the shower, I sent a message to my own phone just so that would pop up to catch your attention. It's like, yeah, I've been stringing you along this entire time. Because there's also, like, the rumors about, like, they talked about it last episode. There was a girl that's connected to Kirishima that kind of, like, made a debut in a porn video and, like, made debut in porn and then disappeared. And the rumors are, like, Kirishima had something to do with that. And she's claiming that Kirishima is him and Ozu are the same. But Kirishima's like, no, in actuality, like, yes, there is some truth to all of that. Yes, I'm the one that told Ozu indirectly about you and me because that was purposeful. Also, the girl that disappeared, yes, is someone I know, but her disappearance had more to do with Ozu. It's like she was surrounded by people she didn't know, and that was taking a toll on her. She was severely depressed, and he told her to kind of get away for a little bit. She got signed up with an agency, but he was like, yo, let me sign you up with a different agency. But that agency led to her doing porn, and then eventually she disappeared. So it's like, what happened to her happens to, like, there have been 3 other women, all with ties to Kirishima. So maybe that's why he's specifically doing what he's doing, because someone's drawing in, like, someone's doing something against him. And I mean, that's why they're probably also dragging in Yoshino, because maybe there's a ploy there. Because Kirishima's saying, like, what Ozu's done to these 4 women, 3 other women, in general, like, she was going, that now was going to be the 4th. That it's like, yeah, if you're not careful, like, because he says, like, I started dating you in the first place because you were part of my plot to, like, get to Ozu and stuff. And because Ozu isn't a mastermind, he's doing someone else's bidding. Like, someone else, he's working for whoever's behind the scenes that's coming after me specifically, or my family and Yoshino's, whatever the case may be. So he's like, he's a pawn in the game. So he's being manipulated and used by someone. You are being used by Ozu. And it's like, yeah, I used you. But at the end of the day, he's like, let's not pretend like you weren't using me for my connections and the Yakuza. You know, so it's kind of like an even playing field. Like, neither one of us is kind of innocent in all this. But he also admits, he's like, if I didn't use you the way I did, then you'd be worse off because you'd be in a more terrible situation than you are right now. Like, this is kind of the lesser 2 evil situations for you, because if I let things be, like, you probably disappeared right now too. So, but yeah, so Kirishima's like, yeah, like, wherever now's supposed to be meeting up, I'm ready for it. But then she brings up the Yoshino, like, the way she talked about it made it seem like Yoshino was supposed to come specifically to the hotel, I guess, to see them together or whatever. But then I love Kirishima being like, no, you didn't send a message. She's like, yeah, I did. He was like, no, I've cloned Yoshino's phone. So I thought the thing was, oh, you thought you were talking to Yoshino, but you sent it to me. But we did see her get a message. So that was interesting. And but she's like, no, I sent it. He was like, no, I've cloned her phone. So if she got a message, I would see it. But she was like, no. Yoshino specifically told me to contact her through her tablet. And so you're like, interesting. Because Yoshino has her own play here. And I don't know how much she knows of what's kind of going on, or whether she's just trying to figure it out. Like, the whole, I guess now's the one that, not now, I guess Ozu contacted her, but she knows, like, there's something up here. I don't know whether she's been hearing the rumors about, like, the Kirishima, though. To be fair, once again, this might tie into the whole thing that her and Shoma investigated, that we just never got to see. Like, she went with him, but, like, like like I said, I think that during that scene, because she tossed him the keys, they were immediately going to Kobe to like look into something. So we never saw that. So maybe next episode we'll see like what they were up to, and maybe that's what informed her about the Ozu of it all. I'm curious if Ozu has anything to do with maybe now has no idea because she doesn't know the details of like the violent situation in school Kirishima got involved in. Maybe it has something to do with either now and she was unaware of it, or maybe this has something to do with the people behind now. Behind Ozu that are manipulating him, who's manipulating now. But yeah, he ends up calling up Yoshino and he's like, he's like, where are you right now? And she's like, oh, I'm in this particular place. Now isn't, God, I keep doing that. Sorry. Ozu is not going where you said he is. You're supposed to meet with him. He's here in front of me. So she manipulated the situation. She probably got in contact with Ozu and chose a different location for whatever purpose. Like I said, it plays interestingly enough into something Shoma had. Well, she was talking to Shoma because Shoma was like, "Yo, whatever Kirishima's mixed in, just let him die. It's better if he just dies." Like, just she's like, "Oh, that's very kind of you." But for her, it's like, "Nah, he can't die. I got to get in like 5 or 6 hits before we even get to that point." Because she says, like, right, if you are quiet, people will underestimate you. And I think this is supposed to be the antithesis of Kirishima underestimated her. Once again, she's pretty sly about it because she probably eventually found out that he cloned her phone. So she knows he has multiple ways of tracking her and stuff like that. So she probably knew her phone wasn't safe. So she probably had like a new device or a different device that Kirishima had nothing to do with that allowed her to get the message from her exchange with now. Like, so I don't know. I'm curious to see where all that takes us, because I was expecting this just to be a 2-parter, but I'm assuming the next episode is going to be a part 3 to this. Maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a completely different like episode. So maybe this, but I feel like this would be the continuation. So I was, like I said, I was expecting to be a 2-parter, wasn't expecting it to be a 3. Might even be longer for all I know. I'm actually curious how many episodes are going to be in this season. It's what I've Googled recently, just now, said 12, which obviously seems, it's kind of the typical number link, 12, 13, something along those lines. So, not unless that's going to change or that's completely wrong, but what I was seeing online really quickly was saying 12 episodes. So, we're obviously past the halfway mark. We're entering like the back third of the season for the most part in a lot of ways. So, it's going to be interesting to see where things end up going from here, but specifically where this storyline ends up going. I'm curious to see where Now ends up falling at the end of all of this, like especially like with the Kirishima of it all, like where her story goes, whether she continues to be like a main character or a recurring character going forward in a story, or whether this might be like this arc might be the only time we see her. I'm curious to see how that shakes up and plays out. But where this whole Ozu thing goes and the people backing him and Kirishima's plan, but also what Yoshino's got planned, especially because she's going there alone because she didn't let Shoma go along with him even though he wanted to. But we'll see where it all takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.